Since we don't have a quorum, we won't review the minutes,
Right.
and hopefully we'll have a quorum before the end of the meeting, and we can then review and approve the minutes. So let's start with the goals. First, incentives and zoning. And for incentives, I'm going to turn the mic over to Scott and Brian.
Brian submitted great notes, great follow-up from our conversation with Marcia. That was the beginning of August, right? Like the first week or so.
Yep.
She was great. She's new in the role. Interesting. She's out of Ansonia originally and served in the assessor's office in Milford, so she's seen abatement programs before. She's very familiar with them.
Fantastic.
And she gave Brian and I, kind of the 101 on how a lot of the tax assessment works within Woodbridge. And overall, I think the mechanics of what we had in mind, she was in line with. She said, yeah, this is how abatement programs work for these types of incentives. But she kind of then went from the mechanics and more into here's what you're really up against, and that's what we're going to talk a little bit about. What Brian bolded and underlined here was a quote that I had heard before and that she confirmed for us, like, to move the mill rate 1 point is $1 million in assessed value. Okay. Mm-hmm. The other thing that was really interesting that she brought up was a dollar invested is not a dollar in assessment.
Sure.
Okay? You put $30,000 worth of windows into your house, the house doesn't go, assessed value doesn't go up by $30,000. And she even kind of threw out a 4-to-1 ratio. So when you start to look at that, and that was just like maybe as an example, I don't know how much science was behind it, but now you're that $1 million movement, right, to move it 1 mil, okay, is $3-4 million worth of investment, right? Like it's hefty to move the needle just one mil. So that was an eye opener a little bit in terms of our abatement program and how much can we really get out of it. Like we kind of looked at it like you'd have to get huge uptake on this, mm-hmm. right, in order to have a material effect. But that said, Brian and I had the conversation that there is a matter of, hey, we got to get some wins, right? And while they may not be, $5-10 million movement of the needle, the mechanics of the program are solid. Brian added some great ads he's going to take you through.
Great.
The other thing that she sort of, I don't want to say it was like a bucket of cold water, but she was like, you should really kind of lower your hurdle rate a little bit in order to broaden the appeal of the program. So that was, that's kind of the setup here, but the key things were $1 million to move a mill, mm-hmm. right? And that was, wow, we have a lot of work to do. And a dollar invested is not a dollar of assessment. So it just gives you a magnitude of what really has to happen to have an impact. But do you want to, Brian, go through?
Yeah. So kind of building off what Scott said, right? I think when we met with Marcia in our original draft, we were starting at, I think, 250K plus. Mm-hmm. And in that conversation, what quickly became apparent is that given the fact that the scope of this activity is relatively limited to, only affecting the existing business area in that zoned area, we're really not going to see investment that results in an assessed value greater than, a few $100K at most, right? Even the large investment that was just done down at Crest, mm-hmm. unless they had completely leveled that building and rebuilt it, they were really only playing with what she termed like kind of the value a factor within the assessment, not mm-hmm. like a wholehearted, like if they put a couple $100,000 in, that didn't turn into an assessed
right.
value.
Does it change the rental value of that
right.
property? If it was that literally is how the assessment is done.
Yeah.
right? Would they fetch more rent for it if they rented that space out
Mhm.
as a result?
So now we're kind of down to, okay, there's kind of these three different areas that we could focus on. It's the existing infrastructure, the existing footprint, which is really what the tax abatement plan is now kind of scoped to go after. There's the, we asked about what's the empty rate to attract new tenants or to help the those that own the properties in town. So this will kind of help do both of those things. And then the third one is, projects that would go beyond the scope of this activity, which would require us to either open up, change zoning, or have, new parcels open up. So there's a combination of parcels that are owned by the town, and then there's parcels that are privately owned that are currently empty. And we know what those are now.
Would the abatement program though apply to an empty
Yeah.
parcel if somebody wanted to?
Yeah.
So it would? Okay.
It has to change. An existing parcel has to now be worth more
Sure.
as a result.
And
Right.
blank land versus building would be worth more, most likely.
Yes,
Yeah.
in that instance.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. Makes sense.
And then one of the things that me and Scott were talking about it is, because of the table, it's,
Okay. Can we take a look at the?
yeah, if you look at the table, I don't have page numbers on here, sorry. We started off by reducing
Yes.
the minimum amount to 50K.
Yes.
It's almost like if it's 50K or less, and what did you do? You did the quick mill rate calculation, it's like a couple $1,000,
Yeah, I mean, a
right?
$50,000 increase in assessment, okay, which kind of using some of her numbers could be a $150,000 to $200,000 investment to yield that, okay, and part of the business.
Understood.
Okay. That would translate into a $2,000 bump from a tax standpoint for Woodbridge, right? And the benefit to the company that made that investment would be $1,000 in the first year.
Using the $50,000.
In the 50,000.
Right.
Right.
So obviously that's the lower end.
Yeah,
That's your point.
it is, but it just gives you some perspective, like, one, how meaningful is it to the town? Two, is $1,000 gonna get a business to go and do what we're intending it to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean,
It's a tool.
yeah,
And,
it totally
I mean,
is.
it's not the solution to every
Yeah.
problem,
And-
in the world.
And
Right.
kind of building off of that, what I was going to propose doing was making a change here that if it's less than 50K,
Yes.
it's kind of a standardized form.
Right.
That just goes through the tax office, because right now, the way that we have written, you asked the question about access to the open land, larger
Sure,
projects, that we still have in here that it should go before the Board of Selectmen for review.
Right.
And I think we only make that recommendation if it's greater than a $500,000 increase.
Okay.
Right.
Similar to
So-
like when they had the forgiveness for the PPP loans.
Yeah.
Right, and if it was under,
Yeah.
I think it was what, 150K or something like that, it was a streamlined process.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense, because it'd be,
That's what I
Yeah.
mean, right?
yeah, it would absolutely make sense.
The risk is minimal, we just
Yeah.
we're gonna talk to
Right.
Marcia again. I sent her a copy of this
That's a good idea.
to get feedback. I don't want it to overwhelm the tax office.
Sure.
I don't think it will, but
Yeah.
we'll kind of figure that out as we go.
And trying to remember, also, at least I think of this, that there are benefits beyond an increase in tax revenue. We've now got hopefully a more attractive or better business structure, something that will also hopefully make Woodbridge more appealing, just visually as well. So there are outside benefits that may also reap rewards for us.
Yeah.
Something like
So
this.
personally, I believe that has greater upside.
Yeah.
Than,
Then the monetary one.
Yeah.
Right. That's fine.
right. I mean, it's more of a trickle down, you need
Yeah.
to use that phrase type of a thing, but.
Yep.
The other thing that came out that was really interesting was she threw out some numbers that Brian captured, right? There's 3,700 parcels, and
That's-
commercial makes up 3% of the parcels and 4% of the parcels and 7% of the grand list. So you do some quick math, right? Because we've got about $1.1 billion in assessed value in the town.
Mhm.
And you do some quick math, the average commercial parcel, okay, is around $500,000. So when you start to look at how do we get big chunks of mill, right? 2 businesses equals 1 mill.
which would be significant.
Yeah,
Yes,
two new businesses,
exactly.
new development,
Yes.
right? And I think that's really where the zoning piece of this comes in, right?
Absolutely.
Brian's point, like, hey, let's get some quick wins. This can provide that, but as Brian has said, there's like a true development, like not just recruiting a new pizza place to come into Bertucci's,
Yes.
right? It's got to be new,
Right.
and
Which is why on our agenda item it says incentives and zoning.
yeah.
Right? So you're looking at, we're talking about an incentive portion today, but we also have
Mhm.
ideas on, things we might want to be proposing for zoning.
I think that and coupled with, I think we continue to move this forward. We
Yeah.
bring this
Oh,
to
absolutely.
a future selectmen meeting to be agreed to.
Sure.
I don't know what the terminology is, right?
Yeah.
But then subsequent to this, now that we actually have this as a talking point, maybe we start to engage some target, businesses.
Yeah, I saw that in the pre-reading. So what are you thinking of for engaging businesses?
There's been like a number of ideas that we've tossed back and forth. I think we can kind of run the gamut, and I was hoping that some of the other members would be here to find out who has contacts. I know that Cleo
And actually, unfortunately, the people who aren't here
Right.
tonight, Cleo and Jeremy,
Right.
would probably be really good.
so I think we might need to pull on them a little bit.
That makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. Yeah.
I think commercial real estate developers, Jeremy,
Right.
is-
Exactly.
that-
Yeah.
to fill vacancies, right, and to at least get going. That's the easiest way to get going.
So we'll certainly, hopefully he'll be here next time, and we'll
Yeah.
definitely bring this up again to talk to him.
But yeah, it's more about just I don't think that there is an active outreach right now through any of the other boards or committees.
There isn't.
So I think that's going to be
we are actually the outreach.
yeah.
Right.
So I think that's going to be us now.
Yeah.
The other thing too that, and I don't know how we get this going, right? Like our confines, so to speak, for our group are between Amity and Litchfield, right, and Bradley to the north or whatever, and the Merritt, right? Like that's the square, okay. And when you start to look at some of these numbers, how much is really there to be developed within that existing footprint? And again, leading to zoning and other opportunities. I know there's, with the country club, I know there's a whole consultant group that's going to come in and here's what you do with retired golf courses or whatever, right? But that really should be part of this conversation in terms of how do we get new development?
Yeah, because I feel like we've been at a disadvantage just based on what our geography is and the landscape of what we've got. And I don't know the solution to that, but to get that organic growth, something new, that's I don't know how to accomplish that, but it's something that needs to be addressed and brainstormed on, I think.
Well, this is why our group is reaching out to 2030 and trying to participate,
Right.
because they are actually, looking at how do we reimagine the downtown. So it's the right time to be doing this.
Yes, but they're also within those confines as well.
They are, but I haven't seen. I'm excited to see what they're coming up with, and they're going to be asking for feedback from us as part of the community. So let's see if we can participate in that.
Yeah, and I think too, maybe, one of the things that I know keeps coming up is, what to do with some of the grant money.
Right.
And how to spend that money and utilizing existing space and property. That those would also be interesting options for us to test out.
Yeah, we had, when Betsy was still here, we were hoping that we were going to get our signage project into a slot that she had thought was for.
Right, yeah.
That's kind of was on pause then at this point, so I don't know where that is now. And we don't have a new Betsy yet, as we all know. So that's still somebody. there's an interview process going on.
Right.
So I guess like next steps, if everybody's okay with it, like I'll take another cut at updating this to like kind of finalize it.
Okay,
I'll send it back through the board for review,
great.
ahead of our, I assume we have an October meeting. right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
we will,
yeah,
absolutely will, yeah.
And then we can make a plan to go start to,
And just the one minor
Yeah.
point on that section 6.
Yeah.
I think, is that something to run by Marcia?
yeah, like
You know, and
that's,
see what she
that's
can
definitely
help-
where
help
we need,
Get that to the right.
get the numbers right.
Yeah.
That's where I definitely need some help,
Sure.
right? The clawback provision
Right.
and the actual numbers on the clawback period. That was something I kind of just inherited, like I
Yeah.
said.
I noticed when I saw this labels investment value, and I'm guessing, but I don't
Yeah.
know, and that's a Marcia question. Do we want to be consistent and talk about assessed value? You know,
Did I change?
that's-
Oh, okay, I missed that.
Yeah.
I missed that. Okay, got it. Yeah, that's wrong. Yep.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Just have everything relate to assessed value rather than any
Yes.
idea notion, because as Scott pointed out, what you invest is not what you get assessed
Yeah.
to.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I mean, that was, as we were going through this,
Sure.
that really clarified things.
It was
for me.
very
It was-
clear to me
It
when
was,
I-
it was obvious, right?
When I
But-
put in a pool, the assessed value changed. I wished I could have paid what the assessed value change was.
Right.
So I understand that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think the other thing too that we didn't talk about, but it also, part of this is to help attract businesses that would have a
Yes.
higher personal property value
Sure.
and other elements. So that's, I think, when we go to present this to the Board of Selectmen, we would
That's actually a
we
great
would
point.
provide that as a
Yeah.
key point for why to do this. Okay.
Yeah, it was fascinating to read all the data you guys gathered from Marcia. on
Yeah, that 1 hour meeting
Yeah.
was very, very
Really,
helpful.
really
Yeah,
interesting.
she was very helpful.
Well, great. So is that the plan then for the next steps for, and not that we can vote on it? but
Yeah,
we're all-
I'll do that, and I'll
We're
also,
certainly in,
I'll draft up a note to, I think, both to Rosner and to Cleo.
Great.
To say, hey, who do you guys already know?
Yeah.
How should we start to maybe communicate this to
Fantastic.
the existing
Yeah.
businesses? And then who do they think maybe
and I'm
would
sure
be
they'll be able to
interested?
give us all good feedback on that.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Well, I have no update on zoning. I've reached out again to several people on the TPZ. I haven't gotten anything back. It was Labor Day when I was doing this, so, I'm
Yeah.
hoping to get some kind of connection going so we can talk about how things might be changing in the business district related to zoning.
It's a little frustrating because you've been knocking on that door for a little while.
For quite a while. Yes, I have. Yes. I will not give up, though.
No, I know that. I'm just.
I can't. It's on our agenda. I will work on this until I die.
Good for you, Robert.
That's that. So next on the list was signage and wayfinding, where there's absolutely no update on. Business district events and networking. Again, I would say we have no, given that we just got through August, we have no update on that. We talked about having an event in the fall, but I don't think we've actually decided on anything. Am I correct in that? At this point? Okay. If anybody has a suggestion for one, feel free.
Yeah, I know 2030 is having their thing next week, Thursday.
They're having,
They're having a sensing session or
Yeah.
community
One of the
feedback session.
consultants' recommendations was to engage the town.
so next Thursday
Yeah, at NEPCO.
at NEPCO.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna certainly try and go.
It
I'm gonna go.
was in the Woodbridge News. There've been a few emails, and I think Chris
Wow.
had some communication
Yeah, it was in the latest paper.
recently, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be here.
Well, we'll report back to you
Yeah.
what happens.
I did actually. Was that the beginning of July or so? They had that second meeting. I actually sat in on that. It was virtual.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
They told me it was another version of the one I sat in on live.
Yeah, it was
so I
sort of
did not-
catch up the folks.
Who missed it,
that
because so
one,
many
yeah.
people did miss it, unfortunately, that first one.
Yeah, and
Do
I don't
we-
know if they met since then.
I
Or-
have not, I've tried to keep my eye on the schedule and I did not see anything. I don't think they had anything in August. So I think Thursday is gonna be the first thing. Next Thursday, it sounds like. Do you know what time? I could always look it up, but it's like 6 o'clock or something.
Yeah, something like
Okay. Great. No, sorry.
Sorry, there was one other thing.
Yeah.
Another caveat to our plan for awareness purposes is that, depending on the types of businesses we choose to try to attract in, if they're industrial in nature or manufacturing in nature, there are other state subsidies that will override the town subsidies. That's how I understood it, right? So-
Override meaning replace or be in addition to?
Replace. So we would, if they make a separate deal with the state to build something that creates X amount of jobs, that abatement would override the.
They exclude what we were doing.
It would
Oh, I see.
exclude it. So just as awareness of, as this all plays
The
out,
other
it's something to pay
interesting
attention to.
thing, when we were talking about manufacturing, was that to grow the assessed value, there are a lot of exemptions that manufacturers get. Okay, so like when it comes to like the personal property tax, right? I have a feeling like if it has anything to do with making the product or something like that, like it's exempt from that assessed value.
So there's a lot of incentive already built into encourage manufacturing, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yes, that's another way to put it. Right.
Got it. Good to know. And something I didn't know. Anything else on that before we
Nope.
switch over?
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
No, it's good. Gift cards is next on the list. Anything new on that, Sean, or are we kind of just?
Well, so so this makes me think of, Betsy's role is
Yes.
looking to be filled.
I know.
Taking a step back, do we have kind of like a summary of items that she was like, I guess, handling and where she left off?
I don't
On things?
at this point, but it sounds like something we should get.
Yeah.
So- I think let's put in our minutes that we're going to ask Jerry, I don't know who else
Okay.
to ask, so probably Jerry Shaw, if
Okay.
there is a summary of where Betsy was on projects like gift cards on behalf of the EDC.
So I know about this particular one because I was
Yeah.
communicating with her on it, but there's other, so.
Yes,
So for this, she had reached out to businesses and had only gotten a couple of responses, which is not good. So I'll take the ball on that and try to push it forward, because if I don't, nothing's gonna happen.
probably not. Would you be game to reach out to somebody? And I'm using Jerry because she's been in communication to.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great.
And the whole, the company that runs that program, it's really like a turnkey kind of operation where businesses don't need to do a lot.
Right. And they don't really need much from us either.
Exactly.
It's more just directing them, here it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think the messaging on that is really the key item, the messaging
To the businesses, right.
Yes.
If we're good to move on from gift cards, I don't have any updates from board and communication since there were no meetings this past month. So does anybody else have anything from other boards to share or that we're aware of that were relevant to us? Okay, great. And then updates and announcements.
We usually talk about like businesses coming and going. The only thing that I'm familiar with is, the UPS store closed.
Yes.
That's it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mr.
August
Electronica
31st.
retired, so.
wow.
And then, is there anything else beyond
The only
that?
other one that I've noticed is just from observation, was it the TD Bank that was very close to the UPS?
Yes.
Brick building, the last building in Woodbridge.
Yeah.
Someone is renovating it.
Oh, okay.
So that's encouraging. I actually asked a couple people in town government if they knew about it. They don't know what it will be, but they noted also, yes, we've seen that there's activity going on that property, and the for sale sign is down.
Oh, all
So
right.
we may have something new there. We'll find out when everyone else does.
The ice cream store opened over by Starbucks.
The ice cream store did open.
Have you been there twice?
Yep, I saw it in the newspaper, I think.
Yeah.
I read that in the newspaper too. Actually, I was meaning to go down there because it's
The craft.
my kind of thing. 6 different kinds of makers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks appealing. Well, great. I think we've got our plan for the following month.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, Debbie's not here, so we can't. Do we have anything else we want to do tonight, or?
I don't have anything else.
I just wanted to ask, Sean, from your perspective, like, depending on when we start to reach out to different companies and et cetera, would you want to participate in those conversations as they progress?
Sure.
Okay, I just want to make sure,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and we'll figure it out based on who's available and
Right.
how it goes, but I think it's a combination of those that already exist and then potential new reach outs, and we'll have to divide and conquer at times.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, yeah.
And I will continue to focus on eventually getting the synergy between TPZ 2030 and us, someplace where we can all really talk and make sure we're aligned, and so that we're moving forward in the same direction. Great. Since we can't vote on anything, I guess I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll-
Second.
So moved.
Approved. Okay.